Now, next we have our Atheist and Foxhole Award, and this award was actually suggested by Steve Trunk, who I'm going to ask to come up to bestow the award on our new honoree. And Steve Trunk actually got the Atheist and Foxhole Award several years ago when it looked like he had won finally the Mount Soledad Cross saga, and there's only half an hour for the whole presentation, but I'm asking Steve to give us a 1 minute, if he can, recap on what I think is it a 29-year lawsuit or 19? I forget. It's the longest continuous state church lawsuit in American history, and it has been resolved. But I have a little surprise for you. Where's Steve? Come on up. Steve Trunk is a lifetime member, and he's a longtime board member, or what we call state representative member. I don't think you've ever missed a convention since I can remember. Have you?
I've lost count.
But when we gave him his award, it was a medal and a plaque, and we were I was working with Vondra Signs, who did all of the, much of the signage at our new building and does the plaques on something that was more fitting, that duplicated the original Atheist and Foxhole monument that we have put up first in Alabama. And then, of course, we have a monument now in front of our building that looks a little different. But Shane is a secular miracle worker, and he came up with I don't know what you call it. It's not a plaque, a statuette that kind of mimics the Alabama. And so we wanted to be sure that you got that one too, Steve. You're getting the first one, and then you get to hand the next one to the other Steve. So I'm going to let.
Thank you, Annie. I really, she said that I was going to get a surprise when I got here, and I didn't realize that I was actually going to get a surprise. So, thank you very much. If I could, please, could I ask all my fellow veterans to raise their hands? That is something you will never see on Fox News. You know, as atheists, we question everything. We want evidence, we want proof. But sometimes there are fundamentals that, we just kind of have to accept. And one of those is that all the cool guys are named Steve. So Stephen Hewitt grew up all over the country because his dad was in the Air Force, as was mine, and he's a former Christian and saw the light, became atheist, and he does have the official approval of the FFRF for his email address, which is freedomfromreligion1776@yahoo.com. That's a lot to write, but it says a lot. Steve retired in 2005 from the Department of Defense. He served in the U.S. Army from 1975 to 1978, and then he continued his military service with the North Carolina National Guard from 1999 to 2005, and ultimately reaching the rank of Staff Sergeant. He was activated and deployed to Afghanistan in 2003 for a one-year tour, where he was stationed at Forward Operation Base Salerno in the Kaust district near the Pakistan border. While deployed there, Staff Sergeant Hewitt earned a Bronze Star, Combat Action Badge, and several other medals. When he came back home, he found a Christian flag. I didn't even know Christians had a flag. But anyway, he found a Christian flag flying at the Veterans Memorial in King, North Carolina. And in December, following a long court battle, I know what that's like, taken on his behalf by Americans United, the city agreed to stop flying the flag and remove a cross from a kneeling soldier statue. Stephen is also a lifetime FFRF member. He's married to Jackie Holland, who is a retired Stokes County school teacher. Stephen has a son and two grandchildren who live in California, and he hopes they can grow up in a country free from those who wish to push their religion on others. Stephen is currently an activist for the Freedom of Religion Foundation and working on a book about his lawsuit with the City of King concerning the Veterans Memorial. Where is he? Come on up, Stephen. My honor to present Stephen Hewitt with this Atheist and Foxhole Award. And I know I'm giving you the right one because it's got your name on it.
Name on it. Well, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Wow, that's heavy. Thank you very much.
Yeah. There's a lot of rock there, man.
This has got some weight behind it. I can hit some Christians with this. Well, thank you very much for that introduction, and I'm honored to be standing up here with Dan and Annie honoring me with this honor, and FFRF. He already stole my thunder with asking all the veterans to raise their hands, so we've already seen them all, so I won't ask to do it again. But I want to let you know that this endeavor that I started was for veterans and about veterans, because we honor service and sacrifice. We don't honor anything else. That is an individual thing. Your religion is individual. We honor the veterans who come back from war. Thank you. We honor veterans that come back from war who have been killed in action with the American flag, and that's the only flag that you'll ever see on the uniform of a soldier. So this started in 2010. I noticed a Christian flag and a kneeling soldier statue at our memorial, as well as religious services on Memorial and Veterans Day. And those were endorsed by the city, scheduled by the city, and so I decided to make a complaint. And I complained to the city manager. During our conversation, the city manager decided to tell me, you will answer to God and Jesus Christ for this, upon my death, for complaining about it. He then abruptly hung up. I then abruptly called him back. And I recorded the conversation from that point on, which was used in the lawsuit. I don't have time to play everything, so I just want to let you know that he's now retired.
United for the Separation of Church and State say the City of King violated the Constitution by allowing the Christian flag to fly here above the city's Veteran Memorial. That flag came down today.
Well, Neil, one person contacted the groups back in mid-August who sent letters to the city threatening lawsuits. Now, veterans and nonprofits and people in the community helped pay for the Veterans Memorial that was built here on city property back in 2004. Now, that's when the flag went up. Today, it came down.
We just couldn't afford to fight this battle. Is the battle over? I won't say that.
That's right, it wasn't over. They had some little underhanded things that they were doing in the background. The ADF, American Defense Fund, they had been secretly talking to them on how to get the flag back up. And so for 3 months, well, that didn't come out quite right, but anyhow, for 3 months, this gentleman here, Mr. Martini, decided they were going to protest at the memorial. The city gave them permission to protest at it 24/7. They camped out there. They held it hostage. The city manager also made a comment that anybody else that wanted to come out and protest, those who are atheists and agnostics need not fly a flag. So, because if you went out there, you probably would have been killed anyhow. So they held vigilance for 3 months, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, keeping the Christian flag on the memorial. There are also other local protests. You can see this tractor trailer rig, which was just down the street from where I lived. I had to pass it every day I went into King. And you can see they spent quite a bit of money on freedom of religion, freedom of speech. This is America. This was put up by the Stokes County militia. If anybody knows what the militia is, this is these folks here. They also put these yard signs up all over town. There are probably at least thousands of them around. We the people say fight with the Christian flag. Anytime the city council were talking about the memorial, they were surrounding the city with prayer chains and Christian flags. But yet I had a few supporters. There were some counter-protesters, and you can see down here in the bottom, the coexist freedom of all religion banner was hung up on that tractor-trailer rig mysteriously one night. So these ladies were great. They helped protest a march that I'll show you in just a minute. So Calvary, darn, it didn't work out quite right, sorry. Calvary Baptist Church rallied 5,000 of their Christian soldiers to march in October of 2010. This is still during the 3-month period the flag was down. And you can see the nice banner, Return to America. You can see all the Christian flags here. But at the memorial,
the United States of America was founded as a Christian nation. How many believe we need to protect our heritage? Again, you can look around the world. You don't see a lot of Muslim nations pretending they're not Muslim. How many believe it's time for America to quit pretending we're not Christian? And if there's people in King, North Carolina who don't like that, there's lots of places you can move to. And if you know who they are, encourage them to move. There's no lawsuit against King, North Carolina unless a citizen is willing to bring it. And how many believe no citizen should bring that kind of lawsuit? Let them move to San Francisco. Let them move somewhere else. They don't need to be here.
so this was the march that ended at the memorial. This is the amphitheater that's near the memorial. 5,000 people were here waving Christian flags. If you replace those with Nazi flags, we could have had a Nazi rally. So, I was called the same thing as the previous speaker, Nazi, communist, socialist, all this good stuff. But it didn't end here. 2 days later, I was assaulted by a neighbor who was a Christian fanatic, who had Christian flags flying his house. He was a self-proclaimed preacher. Had to get a restraining order, go to court on him. And then I had to take other measures. But I'll get to that in just a minute. But this is just some of the other examples of the hate speech and threats that was on the internet. One gentleman in town says, "Why is this man still alive?" Because he's too much of a coward to try it. Another one, "No one speak to me, avoid doing business with me, refuse any contact, overlook him by the staff at restaurants, make his life as miserable as possible, even up to the edge of breaking the law." And then I had another gentleman, he wanted my mother's maiden name and my birth date so that he could, excuse my terminology, but I'm going to say it, fuck up my credit. So unbeknownst to these people, I'm retired from the Department of Defense. I have a monthly income. You can't mess with it unless you shut the government down. My house was paid for. I am completely debt-free. You cannot run me out of town financially. But they did go after my wife. They tried to get her fired from her job. The day after this came out, a student on the loudspeaker, they always do the Pledge of Allegiance. He said, "I pledge allegiance to the Christian flag." Oh, excuse me, I'm sorry, the American flag. And so she had many friends at school that she lost within a matter of days. But I had also take security measures. No trespassing sign. I put security cameras on my house. I also put security cameras in my vehicle where I had 360 degrees coverage. So anytime I was driving in town, which I was followed quite often, it was fun watching people follow me. I used to be a police officer, so if you make 3 left turns, guess what? You're being followed. So So they even followed me into the parking lot, parked next to my vehicle. And so I'll have all that on video, so it's rather entertaining. I'll put it on YouTube eventually.
This controversy has gone on for about 6 months, and this is what we now know. This Christian flag will go up to that flagpole as soon as the calendar turns to January. 110 ping pong balls, each representing one flag flying application, slid into a hopper in King on Wednesday.
Of the 59 applicants in the drawing,
wing number 9 is number 51.
all were either for the Christian or Christian cross flag, except for 5. Those of Stephen Hewitt for his family that served and his wife's father. Selected for the 46th week of the year, on November 12th, Hewitt will fly the Buddhist flag to honor his own service.
We asked King Mayor Jack Warren if he was happy with how everything turned out.
I won't use the word happy. We did what our lawyers advised us to do according to the policy. I think the people in King and surrounding areas have spoken of the flag that they want to see flown, and we will abide by their wishes.
So they got the flag back up. The ADF, they made a sham public forum policy that they had one flagpole that was designated for public speech, but it was limited speech. It was limited to only a symbol that was recognized by Arlington National Cemetery, and it could be on a flag. But you could also have colors on the flag, so they could have the Christian flag in their ultimate glory of the white, blue, and red. And I did fly a Buddhist flag, because I have some Buddhist beliefs. I kind of like that a little bit. Plus it pissed them the hell off. But at no time did we ever protest the Christian flag being flown. But yet on the day that I flew my flag, we had the Stokes County militia there protesting us, flying their little Christian flag to make sure it was at the memorial. Also on another day when the first year, a supporter flew no flag, they were threatened to have their arms broken because somebody had put a little crosses in a box where we have the name that we're flying the flag for. The police were called and they said there was nothing they could do because the if was said in the threat. And I was going like, I'm a former police officer. That's a threat. If you threaten to break somebody's arm if they do something, that's conveying a threat. So in our good old city police department, and we'll get here in just a minute and I'll show you why the good old police department didn't do anything. So for 4 years, the Christian flag dominated the memorial. So the first 2 years you can see it was 47 weeks and then 5 weeks of no flag. The second year was 47 weeks, 4 weeks no flag, and then my Buddhist flag. And then the other 2 years while the lawsuit was in process, another 47 weeks and 5 weeks. And those 5 weeks were all mine. So, and I only put in about 5 or 6 applications, so my odds were really good. I don't know, maybe there is somebody up there who was smiling on me. So, and you could hear them groan every time my name was called for a week that I was going to fly. So, in November 2012, Americans United for Separation of Church and State filed a lawsuit on my behalf. The elements of the lawsuit were this: the Christian flag that was flying on a public memorial on public property, the Christian soldier cross that was placed there by the city, paid for by the city, and then also city-sponsored Christian services at all the Memorial and Veteran Day events. Not only that, but religious material at the police department, the Ten Commandments, Calvary Baptist Church always had their material there. We also had good old Billy Graham. And the police department itself had a Facebook page, and FFRF got involved in that. On the Facebook page, they had several religious verses. They also liked the Calvary Baptist Church, Calvary Christian School, Calvary Baptist College. I think the chief went to the Calvary Church. Anyhow, FFRF advised the city it was a violation of the Establishment Clause. The city said, stick it up your ass. The attorneys, you can see the city attorneys advising quotes would stay. A few months later, the city had a media policy, and it prohibited the chief from doing this. So that came down. But as the lawsuit proceeded, it was 2 years. It lasted almost 5 years. But for over 2 years, there were multiple depositions, fact findings, motions, counter motions, several mandatory negotiation meetings in an attempt to avoid a trial. Then in November 2014, 2 years after the lawsuit had begun, the federal judge, Beatty, called for all parties to assemble and to try to negotiate a settlement. Well, during this settlement time, he asked each party questions. Well, it first started out when they asked Greg Lipper of the AU, I was going like, oh no, we're up the creek. He was asking some questions. Why should we take the flag down? Why should we do this? And I was like, oh no. Then he looked over at the other side of the table and started asking them. And then I went, oh, hell yes. They were asked, why should a Christian flag be up there? Why should this be up there? Why? And the city was just stumbling. And so at that time, I knew we had won. So the judge, to avoid a trial, sent us off to a room where we then started hammering out a negotiation. But during that negotiation, Hiram Sasser from Liberty Council was representing the American Legion. Well, the American Legion lied in some depositions to become part of the lawsuit. They actually committed perjury. So then they were forbidden from being able to interfere in the settlement. So Hiram was in there trying to interfere in the settlement. I looked at my attorneys and I said, let's go out in the hallway for a minute. I says, why is he in here? And they looked at me and I says, you're absolutely correct. And we went back inside, said, Hiram, get your ass out. And then us and the city decided to go ahead and hammer out a settlement. They I can't even talk today, sorry. They capitulated to all our terms. So the city council agreed to remove the kneeling soldier before the Christian cross. They agreed to not fly the Christian flag at the Veterans Memorial. And in a previous ruling, the judge had told them they could no longer promote or endorse Christian services. The City of King spent $50,000 of its own money, taxpayer money, on this lawsuit. The insurance company paid Americans United $500,000 in attorney fees and gave me $1. So,
Personally, I've been on this, fighting this thing for I don't know how many years now. Too many. But I can't see the city bearing the cost of over $2 million and some dollars, and we've already spent over $50,000 out of our own chest here at City Hall. But you can't win. It's just not there.
We're a town that is inclusive. We've never, this city has never tried to, keep out other people's beliefs or other people's religious beliefs, and I don't think we've ever done that or tried to do that. But yet we've been accused of being showing favoritism, and I think when you go back to the founding of our memorial and the creation of that, when this city did it, it was just to show honor to veterans, and I think we've done that greatly. I think we've done an excellent job at that. I think it's a sad day for our community. Like I said, I don't criticize what other people on this council are doing today, because I think we were put in a tough spot. I think we fought this thing for, like I said, years. So this is something that pretty much the whole time since me and Councilman Allen have been on this board, we've had to deal with, and I think it's a shame.
He voted against settling the lawsuit, him and another councilman. The mayor broke the tie. It was a 3-2 vote. But as you can see, they felt that they were being inclusive. Sorry, there's only Christianity that you were promoting. That's not inclusive.
Mr. Hewitt has dishonored every American citizen that has ever fought for the United States.
This is the gentleman who committed perjury. So I think then he dishonors this gentleman here. He was the commander. He is now the current commander of the American Legion Post 290 in King. In his sworn affidavit, there are several areas where he just flat out lied. And in the depositions, he admitted he lied. That's called perjury. So this is how the memorial is today. We now honor the veterans at the memorial. It has been restored. We have a silhouette here with the soldier kneeling before a helmet and rifle. The American Legion had input into this. They left out the boots because I had suggested those. But this is inclusive of all veterans. This is a standard battlefield memorial. And then the flagpole on the far left has been left empty. I guess that's so they can imagine the Christian flag being there. So, since I had to imagine that it wasn't there. So, but there's also a plaque at the memorial, and that plaque is, and this is something that really got me, is that it's to all American veterans. Well, now that memorial is to all American veterans. And at the bottom of it, thank you. At the bottom, the American veterans, forever a symbol of heroism, sacrifice, and loyalty and freedom. And yes, there are atheists in Foxholes because I am one. So, right there. And in closing, I'd like to thank my wife for putting up with this for almost 5 years. It was just as traumatic on hers as it was on me. I'd like to thank Dan and Annie Laurie here for honoring me and giving me the opportunity to be on their talk show and to be at this prestigious event. And thank FFRF and for honoring me with this Atheist in a Foxhole Award. Thank you very much.
Well, I realized I forgot to read this monument when I gave it to the first Steve Trunk, and it reads, "In honor of the countless freethinkers who have served this country with honor and distinction, presented by the Freedom from Religion Foundation with hope that in the future humankind may learn to avoid all war." And then it has Stephen Hewitt's name, and then it also has your Army insignia, the branch of service that he was in. And Steve Trunk had the Marines on his. And so this is kind of a facsimile. It's very heavy.
Yes, it is.
And we want to stay on schedule. There would be time for one or two very brief questions, and then at 11 we go to the next presentation. If anybody has a question, there's mics on either side, but we have to hurry.
Can I ask quickly, how welcome are you in your city now?
That depends on who you're talking to. The Stokes County militia is very active, and they are very threatening. They've had 2 rallies in the last 3 months against me. So they try to still believe that they are going to get the Christian flag back up and get the kneeling soldier cross back up. Currently now that's at the American Legion Hall itself.
What flags are flying up there now?
The 5 branches of service, the American flag, and then there are several flags such as a POW, American Legion flag, so military type flags. So.
Hi, congratulations on your award. And I'd like to tell everyone that the Free Thought Society is hosting a Yes, There Are Atheists in Foxholes event, a public event, November 11th, 2015. And if there are any veterans that would like to come and speak in Westchester, Pennsylvania, please see me and I'll arrange for that. And thank you very much for your service to all the veterans.
Thank you. One more question? Yes.
Was the lying Legion commander prosecuted for perjury, and if not, why not?
That's a good question. Why weren't they? I don't believe, well, one, the magistrate judge, not Judge Beatty, but a magistrate judge, who allowed the American Legion to be part of this, had to reverse his decision later because he was basically scolded by the federal Judge Beatty for making a 1-paragraph decision allowing them in. I think it would have been an embarrassment, the reason why. I've made 2 complaints to our state American Legion office and one to the national office concerning their perjury. And the involvement of the national office, they were also involved in this. So there's nothing going to be done, but it will come out in my book. So, and I believe that's all the time we have. Thank you very much, and thank you, FFRF. Thank you.